and welcome to my show in sunny Southern California. It's super sunny outside, as you can see behind me, but it is actually really cold as well. So surprisingly cold for Southern California. This morning it was about 7 degrees centigrade. Now, not Fahrenheit, which is what most Americans use. I still think in centigrade or Celsius. It's probably about 10 degrees now, but that's pretty cold for me. But it is a beautiful day outside. So thank you for joining me wherever in the world you are. I love to hear where you're from. So in the comments, I'd love to hear where you're from. And I think we're live on both Facebook and YouTube. Is that? Yes, got 2 thumbs up from Danny. Yes, boo, behind the scenes. So thanks again for tuning in. And today's topic is the NDE perspective. So before I get into it, before I get into the topic, I want to touch on a couple of things from last week. So last week, we asked you to write in to tell us what causes you to give your power away. We actually asked that in the newsletter as well. Like, what are the things that cause you to give your power away? And a lot of people wrote in and shared their answers. And I want to share some of them with you so we can touch on a few things that they've said, and also give you, and after that I'll be giving you an NDE perspective on all the issues and problems that people face in the world. So let's go with the responses that we got from last week. And we may or may not have been able to fit all of them, but here they are. Like Anik wrote, whenever I do feel diminished or abused, so in other words, whenever she feels diminished or abused, she gives her power away, which is, of course, very natural. Dana, when I can't attach things or situations, and this is making me feel a little different and isolated, that's when she gives her power away. Kathy says, I tend to give my power away when I haven't made up my mind about what I want to do in a certain situation. People will tend to try and influence my decision. That's an important one. Helen says, I've noticed that trying to win someone over causes me to give my power away. Pam says, I had to move away from my loved ones in order to start the process of taking my power back. I understand that. Dina says, I give my power away in intimate relationships. Vandana says, I give my power away when I feel I have to listen to people in position, whether they are being sweet or aggressive, because I don't want to displease them or I'm afraid. Marit says, I give my power away when I react to other people's emotions, words, or actions. Angie says, I give my power away when I stop noticing myself, when I'm not loving myself. That's actually the solution. Neera says, demands of the children cause her to give her power away. Monica says, I find myself giving my power away when it has to do with my family. Julia says, I give my power away mainly at work situations and relationships with men. Kathy says, I give my power away to my own internal self-talk that tells me I'm attracting the behavior that makes me sad or angry. Tammy says, putting other people first in every situation. Maria says, fear is always the feeling behind everything. Nalini says, I find myself giving my power away when I'm overcome by my fears, like fear of losing my loved ones, fear of poverty, fear of ill health. Now, it's really interesting to note. What I found really interesting is all of them were women, but I guess there are more women that tune into my show. I know there are men as well, and I actually find it wonderful when men actually tune in and listen, because I don't think there are more empathic women or sensitive women than men who have a tendency to give their power away and who don't love themselves. But I do think that with men, it's more of a stigma to do something about it, so they don't do anything about it. They just kind of suppress it and they man up. So that's why men don't read books or watch YouTube videos like the ones I produce to help them to own their power. They don't do things like that because it's not considered a manly thing to do. And I'm going to talk a little bit about gender later on and the NDE perspective on gender. But really, the thing is, we all have to embrace our sensitivity, our vulnerability, whether we're men or women. And I always find it admirable when men do it. So kudos to the men who do. And the other thing I want to say is that for all those situations that you give your power away, really at the end of the day, it's because you are not seeing your soul. You're not seeing who you truly are, and you're seeing the other person. You're seeing the soul of the other person. You're seeing their needs, but you're not seeing your own. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more, which is your soul's perspective, or what we've called it is the NDE's perspective of viewing the world. But before I get into that, before we get into the serious stuff, I want to lighten things up and share something. So last week, when I did my video last week, somebody wrote in with the question like, how do I do everything you practice without feeling all woo-woo, or without other people judging me that it's woo-woo? And I loved that question because my answer is embrace your woo-woo. And if anyone tells you it's woo-woo, like, ignore them. Don't let people mess with your woo-woo. And as I was talking about that, I suddenly thought, doesn't that sound like a song title? And as I turned to Danny and I said, I'm sure there's a song called Don't Mess With My Woo-Woo or something like that. And Danny said, he actually announced, he goes, so to all you songwriters out there, if you can come up with a song that's called Don't Mess With My Woo-Woo, we'd love to hear it. And so we received a song from Matt Keating, a musician, and Danny and I listened to it. It arrived on Friday the 13th, and Danny said to me, hey, we got a song from Matt Keating, and he played it for me, and we were both laughing till tears came out of our eyes. So we have to share it with you so that you can share some of the fun. So if Danny will put on the Don't Mess With My Woo-Woo, it will be, yeah, and listen to the words. Please listen to the words.
Bring on over that Ouija board. We'll talk to the spirits we've ignored. You can call it black magic or voodoo. Please don't mess with my woo-woo, and let me pull one of your tarot cards. Touch your Queen of Cups with my King of Swords. You think that it's wrong, but you know that it's true. You can't mess with my woo-woo. In a past life you knew me before you were born, so when I die you won't know who to mourn. Somebody called me delusional, and I almost fell off of my unicorn. Everything is a sign when you don't have a clue, and you can't mess with my woo-woo. Woo! Told me I don't know what it said. It's all in the stars, or it's all in my head. You can take all my crystals, they're what you see through. Just don't mess with my woo-woo. In a past life I knew you before you were born, so when we die they won't know who to mourn. Somebody called me delusional, and I almost fell off of my unicorn. Everything is a sign when you don't have a clue, and no, don't mess with my woo-woo. Woo. Please don't mess with my woo-woo. Have a good weekend. Happy Friday the 13th.
Oh my God, that was so funny. It was brilliant. Like, he wrote it in just a matter of a few days and performed it, sang it. That was incredible. Matt, if you're tuned in, if you post the video of you singing that song, if you post it on YouTube or Facebook, I will share it on my page. So we'd love to share it, and it was brilliant. You really, really gave Danny and I a really huge laugh, and we were laughing till we were crying, I swear. So yes, don't mess with my woo-woo. Embrace it all. And now on to something just I guess a teeny bit more serious. I wanted to share with you the NDE perspective of of life, I guess, looking at life through the eyes of someone who's had an NDE or through the eyes of your soul. So basically, what is an NDE? An NDE takes you out of your body and merges with the divine, is how I would put it. So in a way, you have like a God's eye view or the soul's view, whatever, it's a soul's view, but you're merged with God. So it's like a God's eye view of everything. So it's super interesting because sometimes when people write to me and ask me questions, I do sometimes hesitate to answer from my viewpoint because it's not always what the person with the question wants to hear, because some of the questions are super painful, or some of the situations are super painful for the asker of the question. So for example, so I'm going to give you a few examples of types of questions and then the NDE perspective on this kind of thing. For example, type of questions that comes up a lot is when people say, I want to help my spouse, partner, sibling, parent. I want to help them too. And it's something like I want to help them to become more aware of things, more conscious about things. I want them to quit smoking. I want them to stop drinking alcohol. I want them to stop gambling. I want them to stop being an addict. How do I do it? So the thing is, from my perspective, or from the perspective of the soul or the NDE, your soul cannot actually interfere with the path of their soul. And so there's not a lot that you can do to change them, but what you have to do is kind of manage your own feelings. So from the NDE perspective, your soul has its own experience, but we have a tendency to look at it as, oh, look at what that person is going through. I need to intervene to help them. What we're doing in that situation, from the soul's perspective, what you're doing when you do that is you are thinking that, oh, they're not supposed to go through that, and so I need to change their behavior. Actually, your soul is supposed to experience in that moment being the spouse of someone or the partner or being hurt by someone doing that. I hope I'm articulating this clearly, but your soul is having the experience of being a partner, a supportive partner or not, of someone going through that. So you have to go back and look at it as, okay, what is my soul experiencing right now? As a soul, I am experiencing being the partner of somebody who is an alcoholic or who is trashing their health or something. So I am experiencing that and I don't like what I'm experiencing. So get back into your soul and feel into what is my soul's path and what am I experiencing. So it's not about changing them, but it is about managing what you're feeling, uplifting where you're feeling so that you can be an inspiration or an influence to them. But whereas if you don't acknowledge that, okay, I am feeling uncomfortable with this, my soul is not really liking this path or not feeling this is the path for me. If you don't acknowledge that part, your part in the journey, basically it's your soul's part in the journey. If you don't acknowledge that, there's not a lot you can do to help the other person. So the first step is to acknowledge your part in this journey. So in other words, also, for example, if you say, my spouse is being abusive towards me, or my partner, or my girlfriend, or my boyfriend, or whatever is being abusive towards me, and how do I change them? It's really about, what is it about my soul that has entered into this agreement with this person to allow them to do that to me? Same with if you have the alcoholic partner or the person who's not taking care of their health. What is it that about my soul that has allowed myself to get into this agreement with them to do this? So start there. Always start there. So it's not about asking someone for advice on how to change your partner, but it's about starting with yourself. How did I get into this agreement of being with this person? What do I need to do to uplift my soul so that it either uplifts them or makes them see that what they're doing is not honoring themselves? So that's the next step, is to really to uplift yourself by seeing that you are a soul and you are an expression of divinity, and by seeing them as being also divine. Now, when you see them as divine, it actually helps them. But at the same time, you have to make sure that you're seeing them as divine from the perspective of the soul. Now, here's where it gets tricky, and I want to make this really clear. If somebody is being abusive towards you and you are not looking at it from your soul's perspective, where you see yourself as divine and you're kind of saying, okay, it was, why did my soul get into this contract? Let me see if I can uplift myself. But if you don't do that part and you are being your personal self, your human self, and you only see that person who is abusing you as divine, what happens is that you're not uplifting yourself. You end up allowing yourself to be continued to be abused by that person. So I hope that made sense what I said. It's really important to see yourself as a soul first. So as a person who's had a near-death experience, my NDE perspective is that my soul does not deserve to be abused. That's my perspective from the NDE perspective. If I, once I step into the soul's perspective, I realize that actually I am here to be loved and to love. That is my only purpose. My only purpose is to love and to be loved. And that's all I do. And as long as I do that, I will only allow people into my field that are reciprocating that love. But we have to really be able to see where have we let people in who are being abusive to us, and we can do it from the NDE perspective. But I'll explain that. I'll get a little bit deeper. This is a bit of a tricky subject where it's very hard to give you steps 1, 2, 3, 4 on what to do. But I'm trying to give you like the near-death experience perspective or the soul's perspective, where from the soul's perspective, there's no judgment, that even the abuser is seen as divine, but acting from a place of ignorance or fear. However, in order to help the abuser, the abusee must see themselves as their higher self, as their soul, so that they are able to walk away from the relationship, or able to uplift the other person so that they stop being abusive. There are many things that you can do, but you have to come from a perspective of higher energy. If you stay in the personal, if you stay in the downtrodden, you will continue to give your power away to those who are basically empowering over you, those who are abusing you, or sometimes it's not even abuse, but basically those who are constantly having their way over you or manipulating you or things like that. So in order to stop giving your power away to people, you really need to start seeing yourself as a soul who's come here for a purpose, with your own purpose, and you need to follow your purpose. You need to follow your purpose. So for example, another situation is like, let's say you're going through grief. You're going through the death of a loved one. Grief is particularly painful, especially if you lose someone out of sequence, like if a parent loses a child as opposed to an adult child losing a parent. It's extremely painful. All grief is painful anyway to begin with. So when you are feeling grief, it's really, really important to take care of yourself. But I want you to know that from a soul's perspective, The person who has crossed over from an NDE perspective, the person who has crossed over is totally fine. They are celebrating. Their loved ones on the other side are celebrating them. Their loved ones have welcomed them, and they are now there, and they're still looking out for you. They still care for you. So when you're feeling grief, what you need to realize is, from the soul's perspective, everything is actually perfect. But from a personal perspective, it doesn't feel perfect right now. And so you need to be okay with feeling the grief, but don't suppress the grief. Don't feel that, oh my gosh, I shouldn't be feeling the grief. I should understand everything's okay. No, allow yourself to feel the grief, and honor the grief and process it. Process the hurt, process the pain. This is the same if you're feeling the grief from a breakup. Allow yourself to process it, process the breakup. But when the pain starts to get less, what really helps you to come out of the pain is to step into the soul's purpose. What helps you to really, and do this slowly, because if it's too early, it won't work. If somebody comes up to you when you're still really in pain from the breakup of a relationship or the loss of a loved one, and if they say, you know, from the soul's perspective, it's all perfect, and that breakup was meant to happen so that someone better could come into your life, that's all true from the soul's perspective. But from the personal perspective, you're not ready to hear that. So allow yourself to process the pain, and then after you've processed the pain, start looking at things from the soul's perspective. That's when it feels a lot better. Very often when people ask me my advice on things like, oh, I've been through a really bad breakup, or I've lost my job, I got fired, and I want to know what to do, and I'm feeling really awful. And all these things do feel awful. But from an NDE perspective, the NDE perspective is less personal. So sometimes the advice is not exactly what you want to hear. That advice needs to come a little bit later. When you are actually going through the pain, it feels personal. So basically, to every problem, every situation you're in, whether it's an abusive situation, whether it's a breakup situation, whether it's a grief situation, whether it's losing a job situation, whether your spouse is really sick or you are really sick, every situation actually has two perspectives, possibly more, but these are the two that I'm focused on. And one is the personal perspective, which is very painful, and the soul's perspective, or the NDE perspective, or the God's eye view, which is impersonal. Even though it's impersonal, it is filled with love. So in other words, from the soul's perspective, or the NDE perspective, or the God's eye view perspective, everything is an experience. Everything is part of your soul's growth. Everything is part of your experience. Every breakup, every relationship, every grief, every job loss, everything is part of that experience. When I was going through my illness, when I was going through the cancer, I was feeling so much pain, so much discomfort, so much hurt, so much fear. And if anyone told me, this is your journey, this is your soul's perspective, I would have felt it insensitive. And so this is why very often when people ask me, I don't say that this is your journey, this is what you're meant to be going through. It doesn't feel good, because you don't want to feel that. You want to feel that you're going to come out of it soon. You want hope. And so the best thing to do with people who are going through pain is to always give them hope. But the NDE perspective, the soul's perspective, is that all of it contributes to your growth and experience. Everything I went through contributed to me being who I am now, even though when I was going through it, that's not what it felt like. It felt so painful. It felt too much. And so what I'm trying to say is that I understand when you write to me and you tell me about how much pain you're going through and how much discomfort and how awful your relationship is, or the breakup or the grief or the illness, I get what you're going through. I truly do. and it is painful, and I've been through it all. The best thing you can do for yourself is to process that pain and do whatever it takes to take care of yourself, to honor it. Don't rush it. There's no time limit. But if you can slowly introduce the realization that from your soul's perspective, all of it is part of your experience. And it's not about you changing the other person. Even you experiencing the other person is part of your experience. The other person's soul has its own journey. The other person has to wake up themselves. And the best way for other people to become aware is when they see how you are impacted when you become aware, and how your life becomes so strong that you are living a life that they actually want to live. So when you really want to impact somebody who has maybe hurt you, the best way to impact them is not necessarily even to walk away from them, but to empower yourself so that you don't need them to be a certain way. You don't need them. You create a life independent of them that works for you. You actually build yourself up. And many times these hurts and these people come in your path so that you do that. So that's basically the NDE perspective. It's really about empowering yourself, seeing your soul for who it is, and seeing everything as part of your soul's journey and your soul's experience. At the moment when you get hurt, though, you get snapped out of the NDE perspective or the soul's perspective or the God's eye view. And many of you who've had spiritual experiences will know what I'm talking about. You'll know what I mean when I say the God's eye view of life and experiences. But when you have a personal experience that just cuts into your heart, you'll come out of that and into your personal pain. That's part of being human. That's part of being sensitive. That's part of being empathic. One of the things that empaths have a tendency to do is we have a tendency not to honor our pain, but to honor everyone else's pain. We have a tendency to make their pain our priority. Watch out when you do this, because your soul also has a path and is crying out for attention and help. You need to also view life from your soul's viewpoint, not just everyone else's. So I hope that's made it clear. Now, I want to bring up another issue, but in the interim, I want to say I would love for you all to write in your questions right now. For anyone who has questions, now's the time just to write them in, whether you're on YouTube or Facebook. Danny's going to check the comments. Do you have any comments now before I go on to the next part?
Well, comments, yes, there's 207 comments on Facebook, and I don't know how to see how many there are on YouTube, but you've got lots and lots of hearts, loves, gratitude. You are speaking to me. You've just answered the questions that have been going through my head recently. There's a lot of people who've actually written in questions, and you've actually answered them.
Oh, good.
Without actually reading them. But there was one question. There's a couple of questions that jumped up, and you put me on the spot now, so I have to slowly scroll backwards.
That's all right.
While chatting, trying to find the question.
Did people laugh at Matt's video?
Well, in fact, Mr. Keating actually put a comment on the Facebook thread with a link to his video.
Yay! Okay, that's great. We'll share it next week.
Absolutely. But he's actually written in the link to his Facebook video. So, yes.
Yes.
Elaine and Scott write, how does one really understand the concept of loving the self when they grew up in a home where they were constantly verbally abused with words such as, "You are worthless"?
Oh, gosh.
What can they do to now feel love?
So this is the problem, and this is why so many people, first of all, you're not alone in feeling that way. Absolutely not alone. All the people who write in the questions that I'm referring to, the questions we had, the comments we had scrolling down the screen a little while ago, all of those are coming from people who don't love themselves enough, who don't feel worthy. It seems to be like a global phenomena, and I mean a phenomena. And a term that I use, that I heard somebody use once, and the term is marinade, and I use it sometimes in my workshops and all. And what do I mean by marinade? Your marinade is basically the surroundings, the environment that you were marinated in as you were forming. And when I say as you were forming, I don't mean as a fetus, but it starts as a fetus, and what your biological mother was feeling and going through. And after being born, the environment, the home, the parents, the energy around you. So your marinade is the energies around you, whether those energies, the words that were being used and the energy being transmitted to you, were they loving, were they fearful, were they abusive, were they hateful, were they manipulative, were they passive aggressive? So I often ask people, think back, what was your marinade? And that marinade that you were marinated in for all those years as you were being formed into an adult is what informs your thinking as you go out and navigate the world. And so that's a good exercise for everybody to do, is to ask yourself, what was my marinade? And so I'm not going to lie and say, okay, this is going to be super easy and that I have an answer in 3 sentences or something to tell you how to change that. But it sounds like, for the asker of the question and so many people out there, that you were marinated in a marinade that was not conducive to you loving yourself. It was more a marinade where you felt that you were worthless and unworthy and undeserving, and needed to really work hard at being worthy and deserving of love. That is so common. So the first thing is to be aware that this is the case. It really is to be aware that this is the case. This was my marinade. And the second thing is to decide, I don't want to be in that marinade anymore. I'm going to step out of it. I'm going to marinate myself in something else. So it's a conscious decision. And then the third thing is to surround yourself in a different marinade. I feel thinking about it as a marinade really helps me to make it tangible what it is I'm doing. So there's the 3 steps. So identify what was your marinade, and if you don't like how it's informed your thinking and the life you've created as a result of that marinade. So number 1 is to identify. Number 2 is to decide, I'm going to change my marinade. So my current marinade is not going to be that. And number 3 is to put it into action and actually consciously choose what you want in your current marinade, which means in your energy field. So you can say your marinade is your energy field. What do I want in my energy field now? So I would choose to spend less time with people who don't appreciate me. I know sometimes it's you have to be with loved ones and all, but I would manage my time with them. I would choose to spend more time with people who appreciate me, love me, nurture me, treat me the way I treat them. And I would choose to spend my time doing things that nurture my soul, whether it's doing art or going to a movie or going out in nature or going to the ocean or paddling in a boat or whatever it is. I would choose things that feed my soul. That's how I would change my marinade. It's a slow process, but believe me, it works. But it's a decision. You have to make that decision. And it's something that you consistently have to keep doing, because if you don't consciously choose what you want to bring into your world, into your field, into your mind, if you don't consciously choose it, other people will choose it for you and fill you up with what's going on out there, which isn't always what we want. And also, just a little thing about parents and about our marinade. Don't stay angry at your parents. Be aware that you no longer want that, but it's not necessary to stay angry at your parents, because they were probably treated that way too. They were acting in the only way they knew how. And the sooner you can release the feeling of anger, the better it is for you. So I'm not even saying condone their behavior. I'm not asking you to forgive them for their sake. When I use the word forgive, to me, what the word forgive means, it means release. It means releasing them from my field so that that anger that I feel for them for anyone who's hurt me, that anger is no longer in my field. It's no longer part of my marinade. I don't want to spoil my marinade with the anger towards the people who have hurt me. That's what forgiveness is for me. It means releasing them from my field so that my field can be filled with love. So I'm glad you asked that question. Something I really wanted to touch on, especially on the perspective of the NDE's perspective, is the LGBTQ community. I do get letters from people who are gay, who speak about being persecuted, who speak about the judgment against them, and they ask why it's so hard, why do people hate them, why is there persecution? And the thing is, I feel for you. There is no reason for you to be persecuted. Absolutely none. You haven't committed a crime. You haven't done anything. You are worthy and deserving of life just as everybody else on the planet is. So what I want to tell you is, first of all, you're not the only ones being persecuted, in that you're not alone. I want to assure you, you're not alone. Everybody, like a lot of people have their own thing going on, whether it's a race thing, whether it's a gender thing, whether it's because you're gay or transgender. So there's a lot of, so all of you, all of us, I won't even say you, us, we all have our different reasons for not feeling loved. The reason why there is persecution, purely from ignorance and fear, unfortunately. So from the NDE perspective, from the soul's perspective, there is absolutely no judgment, whatever gender you are. And of course there isn't, because the soul chose to be that. The soul chose to experience itself as somebody who is transgender or gay in this lifetime. So how can there be judgment? So I want you to know that as far as from the NDE perspective, the soul's perspective, God's perspective, there is no judgment. Whatever anybody tries to tell you about religion, about being judged on the other side, is a lie. And I'm going to say that. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that because I know that to be true, that it is a lie. There is no judgment. You were created that way. How can there be judgment? You have come into this world to experience yourself that way for a reason. I actually believe, myself, I believe that one of the reasons why we have this issue today of where there are a lot of people coming out as being gay is because there is a tremendous imbalance in our world right now in gender inequality. And I think that the reason why many souls have chosen to be born in bodies that don't match their, I guess, their energetic or their energy. So it's basically, you could have a more feminine energy in a male body. Now, even though I say a more feminine energy in a male body, when we're on the other side, we have no biology. So there isn't a biological gender, whereas energetically, our energy can be a more gentler, what we label as feminine energy or masculine energy. But it's actually not, even when it's your energy or your soul, it's not a gender, because literally gender is for reproduction. It's a biology. But I'm guessing, and this is just speculation, I'm guessing that historically the more gentler energies would be born into female biological bodies, and the stronger, tougher souls and energies would be born into male anatomies. But today we're mixing it up a little bit, probably because of the tremendous imbalance of masculine energy on this planet today. That's my belief. That's what I think is going on. And so gentler energies being born into masculine bodies, I actually think is a really good thing to bring some balance into the world. And every single one of you is here for a purpose, regardless of what gender you are or aren't. You're here for a purpose. You're deserving. You're worthy. People write and say to me, I'm really scared about coming out. Should I come out? Now, the thing is, the problem I have about coming out is I don't think anyone should come out. I think you should just be. People who are heterosexual don't need to come out and say, hey, I'm heterosexual. There isn't like a fear of coming out. So I feel the same way. If you're gay, that you should not have that pressure. That pressure should not be put on you. You are who you are. Allow it to unfold naturally. Embrace who you are, and people will love you. And the other thing I want to say is, for all of us, whatever gender we are, I encourage people to not let your gender be a big issue for yourself as well. So if you are, like, for example, if you are gay and you are really afraid of people judging you, that fear is the first thing that people are going to see. But if you kind of think, okay, so I'm gay, but that's not all I am. I'm also funny, I'm also this, I'm also that. And you start to embrace those other qualities, that's what people will see first. That's what I want to say. Because heterosexual people do not focus on their gender. So if you're gay, if the first thing you feel is, oh my gosh, will people accept me? I'm gay, I'm really scared. That is really where you'll be drawing your focus. So just accept it as being a normal person. And it's interesting, I was thinking about the other day, I actually probably have more gay friends than straight friends, and I love everybody equally. So, and don't let anybody make you feel that there is punishment on the other side, because I swear there isn't. So thank you for all the people. And I had to speak about that because some of the messages that I have received and some of the comments I've seen on Facebook and YouTube have been from people who are feeling deep pain and hurt from the way they've been treated. And I really wish that in the 21st century, more people would wake up and not do that. So thank you for that. Now I'm going to turn to Danny and see if there's any more questions.
There are a lot of comments and a lot of questions, but I want to take a second and just shout out hi to Mark Diaz, who's watching us on YouTube.
Yay! Hi, Mark.
And I'll tell you why. Mark just put in a comment and said hi, and then he followed that up saying, I was looking for a video to learn to play the guitar, but I'll just have to put that off. So I'm guessing, Mark, hello and welcome.
Welcome, Mark.
I'm sorry, I just had to say it. I just thought that was such a beautiful endorsement to come and hang with us.
Oh, that's so cool. And then you're probably going to learn to play the guitar after you watch this video.
Yeah, I can't play the guitar, so somebody better learn to play the guitar.
Mark will.
Indeed. Just like Matt Keating plays the guitar.
Oh, yeah.
There's a question here on Facebook. How are we doing for time? Do we have time?
Oh, let's take like two. How many questions have you got? If you've got
86,412.
I'll go through them after.
86,413.
Your questions inspire me for each video. That's what inspired me for this video. Going through all the questions and thinking, how can I answer them all from an NDE perspective? So thanks for the questions. Even if I don't get to them at the video, I do read them. Okay.
Brenda Reed says, Anita, at Omega, you said that we must find our own tribes. How do you do this when you realize that your tribe has been composed of people who've been using you as their mom? I'm asked what they should do, or I'm constantly placating them. I refuse to be drained anymore. But how do I find others to call a tribe?
Well, good for you, Brenda, for realizing it. That's the first step. Kudos. Give yourself a hug, a pat on the back. Kudos for recognizing that's what your tribe have been doing, and that's why you're getting drained. So, number one, recognize it. Number two, it's always back to yourself. It's not about the tribe. You attracted them because you were allowing yourself, at some point, an earlier version of you needed that from people. You needed that recognition of always being there for everyone. And when we do that, whatever it is we need, that's what we attract. So now look at what part of you needs to feel like everybody's mom or everybody's rescuer. You're probably an empath, and that's the thing. Empaths are rescuers, and they want to be there for everyone. So and they can't say no, and so eventually they get tired. So now you want to attract a different type of tribe. You need to be the person that you are. You need to be the person that attracts the different type of tribe. So instead of always being there for everyone, start by saying, okay, what do I need? What do I need? Maybe what you need is to have a massage. So start by taking care of yourself, doing the activities that gives you pleasure. As you start to get to know who you are and what your needs are, the people who have the same hobbies, likes, dislikes, who will relate to you, will start to find you. And this is because you will go to the right places. You will energetically be at the right space where people will kind of just sense it. I mean, I'm going to tell you something funny. Like up until about a year ago, so I moved here to California about coming up to almost 5 years ago. And Danny and I have this great relationship where we're never lonely because we always have each other. We're also always so busy with lots to do. But there was one thing that I was missing, and my life was like, my life was really full, but at the same time, because of the work I do, because of the travel and everything, I was feeling lonely, like for a gal pal, you know, for a friend to hang out with. Many of the friends I have are people who do similar work that I do, so they're also traveling, and our schedules don't always match, and I see them at multi-speaker events, but we don't see each other in between. It's not someone you go shopping with or go for a coffee with or you cry on their shoulder. I was missing that because I had that back home in Hong Kong, but I hadn't found anyone who that would happen here. And so as soon as I realized I was missing that, I thought, that's what I'm missing. And I became aware of it. And I thought, okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can try and spend more time in one place, spend more time at home, and do the things I like to do. And really energetically got to the space of welcoming someone. And I swear it happened so synchronistically. I was shopping at a Trader Joe's, and I was at the checkout, and I have to admit my cart was filled with junk food because Danny and I were like recording videos, and we didn't want to spend that week cooking. And he said, go buy a whole bunch of convenience food so we can just throw them in the oven and eat them so we don't have to cook and stuff. So I did that. I filled my cart with this convenience frozen food, and I'm at the checkout, and I noticed this lady is kind of looking at my cart, looking at all the frozen food, and I can tell she's probably thinking, what kind of person only eats frozen food, and there's no vegetables and there's no fruit, and I'm kind of looking, and then she looks up at me, and suddenly, as soon as she looks at me, she goes, oh my God, I know who you are. You're Anita Moorjani. And that's when I went really embarrassed, and I thought, okay, all I need is for her to take a photo of my cart and put it on Instagram or something, and I'm busted. And I said, yes, I am. And she started laughing, and I started laughing, and she said, what are you doing here at my branch of Trader Joe's? And I said, I live here. I live up the street. And I swear from that moment on, we hit it off, because she gave me a ride home, because I normally Uber home. And she gave me a ride home, and we were chatting, and then from there, what happened is that we hit it off. She was my friend to go and have coffee with. And then the other thing I discovered is that she and I share the same birthday. So this was maybe about a year ago. And since then, she's become my friend, that gal pal, exactly what I was missing. So my point here was that I had to be aware of exactly what I was missing. And I had to be aware that the life I had created had excluded that happening, which is what you're going through, is the life you've created is one where you're always being a mom. You have to then start to create a life that allows that to happen in an energetic way, and then it will come to you. So basically, that's my way of explaining to you. It has to come from inside you. So thanks for sharing that. It gave me an opportunity to share that story. And my friend is Kareen. So hi, Kareen, if you've tuned in. Yeah, I'm so happy I met you that day at Trader Joe's a year ago. And we have another question.
We do, but before I get to the question, there is there's a comment here. I think it's a question. It might be a comment. It's from Edith, who says, "I can't wait for your Empath book, Anita."
And yes, it's coming out next year. It kept getting delayed. The publishers kept wanting to edit stuff, but it's now finally done, and it's coming out late 2020. Unfortunately, it's late 2020. It's called "Sensitive is the New Strong," and it really is about empowering sensitive people and empaths so that they can take leadership roles, because empaths tend to shy away from leadership roles, which is why all the leadership roles get taken by people who are not empathetic, and that's why the world is as messed up as it is. That's my little piece about the book.
Are you allowed to tell everybody that for 2020, all of the workshops are going to be based on Sensitive is the New Strong?
Yeah, at least most of them, I think, they will be based on Sensitive is the New Strong, and based on really a new way of thinking about healing. So all my workshops, my online platform, which we're building, which will be launched also early next year. We're building an online membership platform, which will be based on a very different way of looking at healing, and also it will be on embracing sensitivity. And so when I say a very different way of looking at healing, it's actually not a way of looking at healing. It's a way of looking at wellness. Because every time we focus, if you have an illness and you focus on healing, all you're thinking about is healing the symptoms. It doesn't matter whether you're going for conventional allopathic treatments, or you're going for healing or you're going for alternative, natural healing energy, whatever. People still think in terms of, I have to go to this healing session or to this healer or to this acupuncture to heal this illness, this whatever, cancer, whatever. What I want people to realize is that you're not trying to get rid of an illness. You have to think of wellness completely differently, and you have to create a life as a well person. Because when you only focus on the illness, that's what you're doing. You're only focusing on the illness. So in other words, even when you're going to a healer, you're still focusing on the illness. You're still saying, "Healer, please heal my illness." And my point is, let's not even focus on the illness at all. Let's focus on building up your life and balancing your life so that there is no room for illness. So there's no focus on the illness. The focus is on wellness, on creating an equity of health and wellness, on focusing on your life, your purpose, your love, your joy, your spirituality, all of that, so that in your life, the illness very organically gets squeezed out of your life, so that you're living a life of passion, purpose, love, and you're energized, so there's no room for illness. That's my take on healing illness. It's not about just focusing on eradicating the illness. It's about focusing on growing your life. There you go. And that's what my platform is going to be for. It's to really help people understand that concept and to build their life. Yes. So did you say you had one more question?
I do have one more question. It's actually two questions from two different people that tie in so nicely.
All right.
Okay. Wow, that was loud. Okay. There are two people. One is Namisha, who says, "Anita, if time is not linear, then can your soul come back on Earth into ancient times?" Which ties in with a question from Rose on YouTube, and who says, "What age are we on the other side?"
So that's a great question. The age we are is infinite. We have no age. Although some souls feel younger than others. So this is an interesting one, because it's one that when I research about it, there are people who have theories about it, but different people have different theories. So I always like to go back to, what did I feel when I was on the other side? I never like to tell people that this is factual, but what I do like to tell people is that this is really, I mean, I don't like to tell people it's factual unless I really know it is. Like, one thing I really do know is that there was no judgment on the other side. But when it comes to the time not being linear, that was a harder one to grasp, because for me, for sure, some souls do feel younger than others. The other souls feel like they've been here for millennia, and those are the, and so different souls are kind of helping you and guiding you. And it, for the question about whether you can go back to another lifetime, that lifetime already exists. That lifetime where you were maybe in ancient times, in the great tapestry of the trajectory of your soul, that lifetime currently exists in that tapestry. But we perceive it as being a past life, but it actually exists right now, that time in history. So about you saying, can you go back to that? You are already there in that right now. If that was you, if that was who you were in that lifetime, that actually does exist. And then the other part of the question, do you still have that question in front of you?
There was actually two questions.
Yes. So the first one was, can they travel back to a lifetime?
Indeed.
To one of ancient time, and the other one was...
Let me scroll back.
And I just wanted to kind of see if I can just tie it all up. And if it isn't there, I think I've sort of answered it anyway. But basically, time is not linear on the other side. And when you're on the other side, you see the whole thing as a giant tapestry, all of tapestry. The other question is, what age are we when we cross over?
Exactly,
I remember it
exactly.
now. So the age we are, I'm guessing, depends on how many lifetimes we have experienced. And that is the age we are. And so it's not in years like it is here, but probably in eons. So it is, I'm guessing it's in how many lifetimes we've experienced. And so what I felt when I was on the other side was that there are some souls who've experienced less lifetimes than others. So in answer to your question, but yet time doesn't run linear. It's a very challenging concept to grasp. I also wanted to say, on the subject of the NDE perspective, or the soul's perspective, I want to remind you also that the soul's perspective is pure love. It's only love. And the soul's perspective is always about bringing love to a situation and dousing a situation with love. So if everybody had the soul's perspective, we wouldn't have discrimination, we wouldn't have hatred, and we wouldn't have separation if everybody could see from the soul's perspective. But at the same time, when you can see from the soul's perspective and you can be empathetic to other people, don't forget to also honor your own soul so that you don't allow others to abuse and manipulate you. Because when you're an empath, the mistake we make is we find it very easy to step into the soul's perspective, to look at other people's pain and hurts and allow them to be who they are, but we're not always so kind with ourselves and our own soul's trajectory. So please also look at your own path, your own soul, and your own life with that same amount of love from your soul, from your higher perspective. So I just wanted to say that. And I'm going to let Danny wrap up, because I always like to give him the final word on my videos.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Well, okay, this is the bit where you now point at the bottom of the screen.
All right, here we
And
go.
say, if you enjoyed the show, right, we would love to have your comments, whether it's on YouTube or Facebook. For those of you that are on YouTube, please remember to subscribe to this channel.
Hit the subscribe button.
Yeah, we would love to have you as subscribers. And as Facebook, you're already subscribed. We would love for you to sign up for the newsletter that Anita puts out every week. Just go up to Anita's website, anitamoorjani.com, And right on the bottom there is the sign up for the newsletter. We would love to see you on the newsletter. We can communicate more. We can always chat about more things in detail than we can squeeze into a video. And well, let's see. We've covered the newsletter. You've pointed at the bottom of the screen. You do that so well now.
I do, don't I?
Yes. Oh my God. Let's see. I think the only thing missing is to, let's see, we talked about Sensitive as the New Strong, we talked about the new events, we talked about the cruise. The only thing left to do is
Did you talk about the cruise?
I think we talked about the cruise.
Oh,
Well, and if not, we'll talk more about it next week.
yes. Mediterranean Cruise 2020.
Yes, we can talk more about that next week. There's just one point that I have to raise.
Yes.
And I would love to get the audience feedback on this.
Oh, I know.
Here it is. We're now well into December. It should be freezing cold outside, but for all of you that can watch this video, you'll see what's streaming in through the window behind Anita. It's the middle of winter. We're almost at Christmas. Can we rename next week's show? Instead of Tea with Anita, can we rename it to something like Eggnog with Anita? Or can we rename it Hot Chocolate with Anita? Just for one episode. I'd love to know what you guys suggest. Hot chocolate with Anita, eggnog with Anita, and for those of you who just like it the way it is, you can just say, sit down, shut up, and stop trying to change the name of the show.
And that's just for the next week's holiday edition of the show.
Yeah, I think it really should have a holiday theme.
Yeah, I think so too, with the sun streaming in. I love the weather in Southern California.
Hot chocolate with Anita.
In the sunshine.
In the sunshine. The only thing remaining now is to set a homework assignment.
Ooh. You did. You said what do they want to call next week's show?
Oh, can we use that as a homework assignment?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Then you have officially made it the homework assignment.
Yes. So thank you everybody for tuning in. Love you guys. Have a wonderful week. Have a wonderful holiday season until I see you next week. Can't wait, and bye.